What happens if you let everything grow? Let's find out. Hello and welcome to my channel. Now this whole hedge line has been cut back. You didn't used to be able to see the roof of that house, so it's at least another metre taller, but looking at this berberis here, it might have been more than a metre. Now this is a berberis that's been let to grow. I cut loads of it back because it did used to come out to about here. Now this space used to be covered by that cotoneaster, which was at least as tall as that plum tree there, and underneath grew ivy and laurel seedlings, but we had to cut it back because it just leant over too far, searching for light. And you can see how big the stump was, the trunk, I mean. Well, this is another cotoneaster, and as you can see, that's got very tall as well. And if you look in here, you can see where it originates from. Right back in there, as far as the branches go. So obviously it's grown up, and because of the trees that were there in the hedge behind it, it's been searching for light, so it's leant over and it's reached here. So at some point it will close this little alleyway, so I will have no choice but to cut it back. In case you're wondering, this isn't down to me. This is just what happens in this place. They plant things and then they let them grow without pruning. Another case in point is this viburnum hedge, which it looks thicker now, but as you can see, it's up to there. Before I took the top down, you probably couldn't see that holly behind there, but it's thickened out now, apart from further on down there, lower down, but that's because I've cut it and pruned it every year. So if you trim frequently, a tree will thicken up. Now let's have a look at this cornus mass. Now I don't know, I've never seen one bigger than this, but if you look, there it is, that's the base, and it goes way, way, way up into the sky. And this hasn't had any pruning apart from whatever branches lean into the way of these paths. Now through here, this is a garden of lots of little tunnels, as they are, little paths, tunnels. So they're in the process of changing because of this very thing of letting plants grow and not pruning them. Here's another case, as you see, this dogwood. It used to block out the light here, but it's leant so far over into the field that we now have light. There's a wren up there. And I haven't been allowed to cut it, so this will now has probably reached a point where I think it should be topped down. I mean, we could probably do it down to 6 foot, just to keep the view blocked. And again, in here you can see this is kept at a certain height, and then we prune the new growth, but there comes a point in a tree's life where it won't regenerate from if you cut it back to the same point too often. I think if you can see here, I've tried to cut below, I've tried to leave enough for it to grow, but in there, look, See, they're all dead. And dead things don't sprout. And again here, see, these should be nice long whips. But as you can see, and if you've seen my dogwood pruning tutorial, which I'll link to this, you know, I took a lot off last year, but I knew, and I've told them that if it's not done, they will need to be cut back to the ground at some point, and I think the time has come, so I'll have to run that by them. They don't like cutting anything here. Another example is I can't think of its name. No, I can't think of its name, but as you can see, it's in flower. But that was right up there, so I've had to bring that back in order to thicken it up. This choisier also was leaning over and blocking the gate, basically, as well as that snowberry there, which, you know, you can see that I've cut that back quite a lot. But that's what happens if you leave things to grow too long. They get too leggy, or when you come to prune them, they don't regenerate because they've gone past that point of regeneration. Sometimes they will come back if you cut them to ground, but then I found they're never as strong. So it's always better to do your pruning. Now here's an example of cutting to ground, and, well, not quite cutting to ground. I cut it to there. I can't remember how many years ago, within the last 5 anyway. And look, it's come back, so it's filled in that space nicely. This osmanthus has, well, its base is there, and it leans out there. I mean, I keep sort of taking it back so that they don't notice, but they will reach a point where I can't take it back anymore without going to extremes. Another example of letting things grow is this. It's had it now, it's got some kind of disease, either disease or it's got too old, but there's 2 clumps in there, the main one straight ahead, and the other one possibly some offshoots somehow, but it's just leant over and leant over and leant over, and it does root itself down in here. Although, as I said, not anymore. So yeah, so that's what happens if you leave plants with a minimum of guiding. Having said that, there was a berberis in here that had gone crazy, and obviously it reached that point where, what can we do about it? Nothing. We have to get it out. So that was done last year. This had self-seeded, this laurel, candle laurel, isn't it? I can't think of its name. But yeah, that's self-seeded. So somehow, organically, the gardeners flowed into these little paths have changed a bit. And Cotinus here, you can see how far that's leaning from over there to over here. And really, that's should have been cut back before, but they won't let me do it. So that's how the garden runs here. So if you're thinking what happens if you let things grow, that's what happens. Thanks for watching. See you later. Ta-da.